So I've been thinking lately about how we get the most out of the books we're reading, or anything we're doing really. How do we find the most magic in the things we love? And at the end of the year I read Peter Pan, and it was very much in my mind, this idea of magic and adventure and just loving what we do. So I want to start talking about ways that I'm experimenting to get the most out of things. I could talk to you about annotating a book, and I'm sure I will at some point, how writing notes in the book and using these beautiful coloured tabs have really added so much. How then taking those tabs and turning them into notes has been fantastic. I'm sure in the future I will be talking about this system that I'm trialling. I could even talk to you about some of the essays I've been writing and generating questions as I read. I could talk to you about making magical free journals out of scrap for all the hobbies we love, tarot or reading or sketchbooks, and how to layer our passions. My layering of passions after reading a book will look very different to yours. You might devise a recipe you cook or a playlist that you want to go running to. I will turn to art. This is a huge ink drawing I did based on strange fairy tale creatures, or I might make a mixed media piece about how a book makes me feel. All of these are ways of pulling magic out of a book we read. I might turn to my collection of tarot and devise spreads around the story for self-love and self-development. This a fairy tale tarot, and it didn't surprise me that I found a Peter Pan card in here. So there are lots of ways to pull magic out of our books. One of my favourite ways to do that is something I call adventure reading. Going on an adventure with the story in some way, taking our reading outside, finding ways to celebrate the stories we read. This happened to me in December with Peter Pan in spectacular fashion. So on a bitterly cold and foggy December day, me and one of my best friends made the drive to Blenheim Palace, the home of Winston Churchill, and there we visited the Peter Pan Christmas exhibition. The first time I've ever been in this incredible building, to see the whole place decorated around the theme of Peter Pan. As I stepped into this hallway, I burst into tears. I turned to my friend and said, I think I'm going to cry. It was the ships on this huge Christmas tree that finished me off. It was the most amazing time in a glorious setting with incredible art, incredible architecture, incredible Christmas decorations, all in celebration of one of my all-time favourite books, Peter Pan. This event raising funds for Great Ormond Street, the Children's Hospital. Jay and Barry actually gifted all the rights of the sale of the book Peter Pan to the hospital. The rights ran out, but it was deemed that it was important enough for the hospital to always get the fundraising from the book, and so it was awarded that the rights for Peter Pan would always go to the Children's Hospital in perpetuity. It would seem that in fiction and in real life, this story never wants children to be forgotten. And as we walked through and saw the book come to life before our very eyes, including moving photos in the nursery with Nana the dog, it was just like literally stepping into the pages of the book. We have Tinkerbell lights against a backdrop of a palace and art that was breathtaking, and chandeliers and Christmas trees like you've never seen before. It was completely breathtaking. My little video does no justice to this event whatsoever. It was incredible, as we got to fly over the rooftops of London with Peter Pan and Wendy, and to follow the golden arrows pointing us to Neverland. "There it is," said Peter calmly. Where? Where all the arrows are pointing." Indeed, 1,000,000 golden arrows were pointing it out to the children, all directed by their friend the sun, who wanted them to be sure of their way before leaving them for the night. And so we step through the arch of island critters and vegetation, and the island comes true for us as the book tells us. We find the Lost Boys' home under the ground, also the little house made for Wendy above ground, complete with the roses that she asks for around the door, that everybody imagines, and so they are there. That play between the imagined and the real. That's such an important theme of this book. What is real? What is imagined? That idea that if you've imagined it, then yes, it does become real. Do you believe? This book asks on repeat. Do you believe in fairies? You just have to when you see Tinkerbell in her little room within the home under the ground. And definitely as you step through into the Mermaid's Lagoon. If you shut your eyes and are a lucky one, you may see at times a shapeless pool of lovely pale colours suspended in the darkness. Then, if you squeeze your eyes tighter, the pool begins to take shape, and the colours become so vivid that with another squeeze they must go on fire. But just before they go on fire, you see the lagoon. This is the nearest you will ever get to it on the mainland, just one heavenly moment. If there could be two moments, you might see the surf and hear the mermaids singing. And then through the most magical doorway with lagoon-inspired decorations, a strange ticking emanates from the next room. "Someday," said Smee, "the clock will run down and then he'll get you." Hook wetted his dry lips. "Hey," he said, "that's the fear that haunts me." If you've ever needed a green light to put large-sized dolls as Lost Boys in your Christmas decorations, then this archway is it. An archway which led through to the spectacular library of Blenheim Palace, which also contained Captain Hook's ship. This, the second time I burst into tears walking round this incredible exhibition. And then, of course, walking the ship, we spotted Captain Hook. His hair was dressed in long curls, which at a little distance looked like black candles and gave a singularity threatening expression to his handsome countenance. He was never more sinister than when he was most polite, which is probably the truest test of breeding.
Take my arm, madam.
And then, having walked the deck of the Jolly Roger, we then re-enter the nursery bedroom with the beds made up by a mother's love, still hopeful for the return of her children. This theme of a mother's love against the selfishness of children, a really important theme in this book too. Why on earth should their beds be properly aired, seeing that they left them in such a thankless hurry? Would it not serve them jolly well right if they came back and found that their parents were spending the weekend in the country? It would be the moral lesson they had been in need of ever since we met them. But if we contrived things in this way, Mrs. Darling would never forgive us. To say I was blown away by this visit is an understatement. So, to bring your books to life, can you find adventures? They're not all going to be decorated inside palaces like Blenheim Palace, but you can find the essence, the joy, the themes of a book and go on adventures around that for certain. Get out with your books, live your books, explore your books in whatever way they pull you into the adventure. Let's all be Peter Pan on an adventure forever. Remember, the stories that we read literally hand us the fairy dust that we need to fly. New rabbit holes to fall down, new worlds to visit, new themes to explore, and like Peter Pan, adventures to have.